All right. Here we go. All right. Were y'all able to hear the music or did it not come through? I feel like it was not where you guys could hear it. But nonetheless, if it worked, if it didn't work. Oh, I heard it vaguely. All right, so that means I need to have a do-over, right? Because we need to hear the music because it's nothing like doing our live and not hearing the music. So I got us because we need that. We need that. Here. Let's see. I think I got it. There we go. Talk Tuesday. All right. I see it. Oh yeah. All right, guys. Listen, I am super excited for us to be back again for another Talk Tuesday. So, first and foremost, welcome, you guys. Talk Tuesday is a series that is dedicated to empowering youth and families. This series is brought to you by Steps Foundation, Inc., where advocacy meets education for the betterment of young minds. I am Abigail Ellis, your host and the founder of Steps Foundation. This month, we are excited to be talking about a topic that plays a huge role in every team's life by way of positive peer relationships. So we know that friendships can both be a source of joy and growth, sometimes stress and conflict, and then depending on the nature, can be extreme, right? So throughout this month, we're kind of exploring how to recognize healthy versus toxic relationships. We touched on that last week. Today is going to be how to communicate effectively. We'll continue to go through the month and talk about strategies for resisting peer pressure, and then the essential qualities of trust and empathy in strong relationships. So we are super excited. So we invite you guys to leave comments, ask questions. We'll be checking the chat. We'll also be looking on the live stream to see if you guys are leaving any questions or answers. I'm super excited because if you were with us last week, you kind of got to meet some of our team that's behind the scenes. So Alani is with us again today. Alani, say hello.
Hello. Hi.
And so I'm super excited to have, look, now she's giving me the shy face. Super excited to have Alani with us again today. And then if you've been with us for the past year or two, you guys have met my boy Caesar. I see you, Caesar. I see you. That's
Hey,
my
what's up?
boy.
What's up? It's glad to be back, man.
Super excited to have you back with us. And so, that being said, we're going to dive right into the topic today. So, if you guys notice, like I have a different surrounding. So, today we are sitting downtown UCF. I have a panel discussion today about careers. And so, I'm super excited to be here. And that is why we kind of changed the time around. So, we're streaming live a little bit earlier than we normally do. So, that being said, our topic today is on effective communication. So y'all know I got to start with a question. Always. So the question that I have today, when we talk about communication, we know communication comes in a variety of forms. So how do you guys feel body language impacts how our messages are typically received? All right.
Can I speak?
Of course.
I bet my bad. Nah, I feel like body language like it affects the way that people see how like the words come out. You know what I'm saying? So like if you say it, you can say a sentence that is not necessarily mean or you're trying to be mean, but the body language is it makes it seem that way.
Yeah, Absolutely. Absolutely. You want to speak? Okay. Oh, Lamar wants to speak. Okay, come on.
So I think body language is something that you can definitely attach to words, but it can also bring new meanings to words. So it kind of like it's that support to the word you're saying, or it's kind of like that, okay, I know what you're saying, but do you mean it in this way? So let me check your body language to see what you're really trying to mean. But it can also be misleading. So
Oh, I love that you said that sometimes it can be misleading. And then I see in the chat, our body language can show that we mean something without us actually having to say it. Yes, yes, and yes. What do you think, Alani, before I tackle that?
I think body language is really important because it shows us like how they are reacting. Like I feel like words are words, but it's important how they react like in their body language. Um, I want to say an example, like if you're saying like "I love you" to your boyfriend, um, but you don't mean it, and you see in the body language,
Yes,
that's an kind of example, like "I love you," like, but like you're stepping away, that kind of body language.
absolutely. And I think even sometimes, outside of relationships, right? You know how like a lot of times people will say, how are you doing today? Right? And you always know if the person's, I'm good, by the way they say it and how their body reacts, you kind of know that they're not really good. But I think sometimes some people will kind of gloss over that, if you will. Because and I bring that up because sometimes people ask questions and it's not like, you ever feel like somebody asks you how you doing and they just really didn't care? Like it's just they asked it to ask it. So it's like by the time you're like, okay, my day completely sucks. Like it is not the day. But then you're looking at the person and like, do I feel comfortable telling them that? Because are they really asking because they care, or are they asking just to be asking? And I feel like sometimes body language in that sense impacts how people understand it a little bit differently because they really didn't care when they asked versus somebody who really does care and they're asking a question. What role do you guys think empathy plays in effective communication? I love those thinking faces. What role does empathy play in communication? And for those, so we do have students on here as well, and I know they're behind the scenes. But if any of you do want to speak, just let me know, and I will unmute you. But you don't have to.
I was gonna say, for empathy, how does it affect body language, right?
Now,
Oh,
how does it play a role in effective communication?
oh, so um, it depends. I think. I mean, from my from my experience, from my experience, I think like empathy, if you can somewhat relate or to a level of what another person's going through, you would understand. Like, it's not like you feel petty for them, but like it's like empathy. Like you feel the pain and the things that they're going through, and you can relate to it in some way.
Mhm. Do you feel like it helps you to open up a lot more when you
To the
feel like
conversation,
somebody yeah.
because you can relate to it. So if you in some way you have that kind of connection, it's easier to talk to. It's easier to make conversation. It's easier to you know just talk overall, I think.
That's a great point. That's a great point. And I see in the chat too, empathy allows us to look at things from another person's perspective so that we can try to understand what a person is telling us when they leave some things out. And I think that is a very great point because, again, when we're putting ourselves in someone else's shoes, right? Typically, we're relating to what they're going through in some way. Even if we didn't go through it directly, maybe we have family that went through what they went through. But it is very true. A lot of times when we have that empathy, we are able to kind of see what somebody is leaving out when they're giving us information. So that's a very good point too. What about you, Alani or Lamar?
I agree
Nah.
with what you said, Alexa. Yeah, I agree with what she said, and Caesar too.
Love it. You got anything to add?
I feel like empathy can be very powerful at times because when you relate to some situations that somebody else had, it can not only bring like your deeper connection, but that can also get you a lot of maybe better relationships in the future because you'll understand like that situation and you'll be able to maybe help other people with said situation.
I love that you said that empathy can sometimes help make a situation better, right? What happens when people lack empathy?
I mean, if they lack empathy, then that clearly means that they have no regard for other people and they're very selfish. And that is not a very good trait to have.
That's not a very good trait to have.
That is a terrible trait to have. A lack of empathy is basically like like being corrupt in a business. See, at that point, you're just making it worse for everyone below you.
Oh. So what about you guys? How do you feel when people lack empathy? So like if you're having conversations with somebody and you just feel like that empathy level is not there, what are some of the things that it brings up within you? Like how does it begin to make you feel? And then what are some of the things that you typically do? I know that's a deep question.
For me, I think so. It can happen in a way that like talking to someone and you like, you starting a conversation about something that you like or something that you're interested in or something like that, or some of the issues that you have, and they just brush it off as if it was nothing. I think
Yes.
that might make you feel not heard, maybe even discouraged of wanting to say your problems or saying what you like to other people because you might think that they're not really, nobody cares about it.
See, and I asked that question for that reason because I know sometimes when we're talking to people, we feel like we're not being heard. And even if it's by the way they're looking at us or by their body language or sometimes by the things that they say. And then some people come out really harsh in situations when you're trying to tell them something is wrong. The way it comes across is not always the best, so we feel like they lack empathy. So I was asking that question because I'm really curious. I know a lot of teens go through this when they're trying to relay things to adults. Sometimes it's either you feel like they're not listening, it's not being heard, or how they came off is somewhat judgmental. Is that pretty accurate, would you guys say? Or are there circumstances or other situations? What we got to go with that?
What you just said kind of ties into what I said earlier, is that like body language and that kind of thing, it can be misleading because you can't read nobody's mind. Like you never know what they're thinking unless they say it.
Right.
Or like they're showing in their body language. So it can be very hard to tell some people just off of that. So
That's true. You guys got anything to add before I go to the next question? I love it. Kind of definitely depends on the context. I hear you. How do you think, and my teams that are on, like y'all feel free to answer this question because this one is definitely specific to you guys. Okay. How can teens handle situations where their opinions or feelings are being dismissed by friends? I love Alani's face. Yeah, Alani, think back to when you was in high school. So you're a teen.
But am I really though?
Well, you're a preteen. Do you ever feel like sometimes your friends dismiss you or like your feelings or things that you think?
No,
Not really.
no,
You got some cool friends.
I do.
Let me get them. I can't have friends like yours.
I mean, you can have friends like mine, but I don't think you want my friends,
You're right. I don't.
cause we be hanging out.
I know. So you guys, how do you think teens can handle situations where their opinions or feelings typically get dismissed? Have y'all ever gone through that?
Maybe.
She like, maybe.
I think teenagers handle it like very bad. I don't want to be mean, but I feel like we're not mature enough for that sometimes to handle it. But maybe it depends, good or bad.
Absolutely.
But what I can say, see, I'm gonna try to use said empathy that we was talking
Oh,
about earlier.
okay.
I'm gonna try to put myself in their situation, right?
Mhm.
So honestly, if they're just dismissing your feelings, at that point, I don't think it's a good idea to just drop on it any further at that point,
Mhm.
because they're just dismissing it. They really don't care. So
Mm.
there is no reason to be on that topic any further, and maybe you should just maybe create some space with those people, because
So put some distance between you and them.
yeah, because clearly that is not very good of a situation to be in if they're just dismissing.
Absolute. I see in the chat, I think you can try a couple of times to get their attention and explain yourself. But if things don't work out, there doesn't really seem to be anything you can do about it since you can't control every person's response. Just don't let it tear you down or affect you too much. And that, you two have very similar ideas. And I bring that question up too, because a lot of times when you think about the type of friends that we sometimes keep, right? There will be, even in relationships, when you're trying to express yourself or share your feeling, sometimes there's those friends that takes your feeling and then they make it about them. So now it no longer has anything to do with you. And I can see how sometimes that feels very, very dismissive, where you feel like you're not being heard and that people don't understand. Have you ever encountered friends like that? Where you're having a really rough time or a really bad day and you're trying to share that with them, but they typically take what you're saying and then they make it about them rather than listening to what you're saying.
I'm gonna say it's not really friends. Maybe some of the people at some of my old schools used to do that for some reason,
Okay.
because
So they weren't really friends though. They weren't
yeah,
they weren't in your friend group.
I know,
Okay.
but like it's still kind of sad to see and dismissing a child's feelings, even though they're like, that's still very sad to see. I think that's actually worse to see than somebody's friends, because at that point you could probably try your best to pull away from that situation, but it might be more difficult with an adult.
Oh, so he says that it's typically more difficult coming from an adult than it is coming from another child or another student that his age. Have you guys ever encountered that one? Where it feels like, you're trying to put your feelings out there or give your opinions and adults shut you down and dismiss what you feel. I love the friend that had slow hand raised. Like it's me.
It-
And like, and I love your honesty and
I
your
think,
openness.
what I have seen, on my opinion, I think a lot of parents don't listen to their kids. And it's really hard to open, like the kids to open nowadays with their parents, because they're not listening or paying attention, and then the parents like making about themselves too, and they don't worry about their kid, basically.
That is very interesting, and I've seen that happen as well. What about for you, Caesar?
Okay, so I think it depends on this. I mean, for example, if it's a parent, me and my parent, my mom, we weren't always that tight, but I think when it comes to parents, it just takes time for them to for both of them, for the child and the parents, for them to come to terms and understand each other. And it definitely took a lot of time for me and my mom to do that. Um, but when it comes to other adults and other teenagers, other kids, um, it really just depends, because there's some people like, for me, it wasn't really much of a bother. It was just like, okay, it's whatever. But some people might take it in a different way. Like they might really get mad, they might get upset, and because they're like, why won't you understand? Why won't you listen?
Mhm.
So I get it, but
That's a good point. And see, because of that point, I'm gonna read what's also in the comments, and I think this brings up a good point too. That sometimes parents, especially because they feel that their wisdom is the only thing that can apply to their situation, parents don't pay much attention to a kid's opinions because they automatically assume that they're right. Um, and I think that's a very valid point, and why I always encourage like open communication between families. We get it, we're older. We want to save our kids from all the bad things of the world, right? Um, but sometimes we do have to listen to our kids. And sometimes, our kids have great information that we can learn from. And I'm not ashamed to say I'm not always right. I'm not, and I love learning from my son. Um, but I think that's a very valid point too. And it goes definitely with what you were saying, Caesar. Sometimes you just feel unheard. Sometimes you want to put things out there, but like there's a disconnect, right? There comes that disconnect sometimes. Um, how do you guys handle when you actually have a friend that refuses to talk about an issue? So let's say you and a friend, you guys got into a conflict, right? Um, you kind of want to talk about it so that you can like bury it, get it over with. But then your friend kind of refuses to have the conversation about conflict. How do you get past that and rebuild that communication? Because that's kind of like that lack of communication when they're refusing to talk about it. So how do you guys get past the friend that just doesn't want to talk about it. Oh, I love one student said, give them space until they're ready.
Yeah, I was
Yeah.
about to say that too.
Don't pressure them.
Now, I love the give them space until they're ready and don't pressure them. How many of us are very impatient? And with that impatience, right? How do you begin to feel when they're taking their time to get in a space of being ready to have the conversation? What are some of the things you begin to feel, or what are some of the thoughts that flow through your mind during that wait period?
Man, for me, everybody's different, but for me, it's I feel like anxious almost because I know it's an issue and I want to solve the issue, but it's not my place to solve the issue.
Yes, 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 yes. Oh, I see a hand, Gia. I will let you talk. And I love this question. The reason why I ask that is because I know sometimes when we're saying we want to give friends space, if we're a person that's impatient, we typically start to think the worst, right? Oh my gosh, my friend is really mad. They don't want to talk to me anymore. Oh my goodness, it's taking so long. And like all those all the negative thoughts start flooding in. And like we feel like they're ignoring us, or we feel like they're still angry. And that's why I asked that question. I feel like sometimes it is very important to take a look at ourselves. I see in the chat, I've never been able to get past it. Eventually, the relationship just falls apart because they're so afraid to talk about what's wrong. This is just with friends. It's with significant others as well. It gets so annoying and tiring. You feel anxious just waiting for their input and option, but they don't give it. Ooh, and see, and that's why I asked that question, because sometimes like we want to answer, but we want to allow people space. And with that, right, it brings up a question about boundaries. Are we actually giving out very clear boundaries? And for those of us who have a hard time with that, what are some suggestions you guys have with making boundaries very clear in the beginning with friends or even with significant others?
Talking about it, making it clear, and setting expectations of what you want in the relationship or in the friendship, and being honest.
I love the setting expectations.
Maybe at like your own time, you could set, like maybe create a list of boundaries you have for everyone, like all like your friends in general, and then you can maybe make boundaries for specific people that you know are gonna do things that you don't like, so you can have that general list, but you can also keep a list for people you know gonna do things.
Okay. So I love you making a list of your boundaries, and I love it.
So that when you get to that person, it can be like very clear on what you want them to do and what not to do, because that sometimes that can be very difficult.
It is a very difficult conversation to have. That's definitely not always a easy conversation. I see, just have a heart to heart and just tell them everything is so much easier when you just talk. If you don't know what to say, ask ChatGPT.
Yeah, that got me killed.
Not sad.
I love it.
Not a little robot.
Be open to change. Like be ready for when things change in a relationship. Oh, I love the being open to change. I think change is such an important aspect to anything, right? How many of us have a hard time with change? Yeah, change is not always easy either.
It depends honestly on what it is.
Absolute. But I love the being open to it, like just being open-minded. Ooh, I love change. Look, change happens regardless of whether we want it or not. It is the norm. It happens. We grow. We evolve over time, right? Boundaries that we have now, we may not have later. And that's in anything that we do. Caesar, what is some advice that you would give to a student who is looking for better ways to communicate with their friends?
Um, to be honest with you, the ways I talk to my friends, it depends because there's certain things that you could say around your friends and stuff like that. But um, if you're having a hard time talking to one of your friends or multiple, some people in your friend group, I think it's better just to have like someone in the comment section said just heart to heart conversation because I like you are a friend and he is your friend or she is your friend. There's a point where it, some people don't, not all the friends, but some people don't get what's being said is being serious. You know what I'm saying?
Yes,
So
yes.
they don't know that it's serious conversation and you gotta make it be known that it is. So I think it's just having that heart to heart talk and having an open mind to what, so listen to both sides. So express yourself and let them express to you what their boundaries or whatever it is.
That is a very, very, very good point. That open-ended communication, like you're hearing both sides and everybody's getting their point across. I'm gonna go back to what Alani said earlier, right? Alani was like, sometimes I feel like at this age, we're not mature enough. And to have some of these conversations, right? So, since I'm gonna put you back to your middle school and high school self.
Yeah, for sure. Let's go. Let's go.
How do you think then versus now, how would you have handled conversations with your friends that felt uncomfortable?
I mean, I was okay. I mean, I don't know. I think it is easier now, of course, because I got in a little bit better at it. But back then I don't think it was really ever that hard. I think it was harder when I was like in middle school. But because I didn't really know how to express myself and I know how to love myself. So you can't really love someone or show them love without really loving yourself. So for example, like when I was in high school, maybe middle school, I was not really that talkative for the first year I got into that. You remember the us, right?
Mm-hmm.
I wasn't really that talkative, and you brought it out of me actually, but but yeah, I wasn't really that talkative, and I really talked to no one basically. But I opened up because it's not just to make friends, it's not just to make connections, but it's for yourself because you don't want to be all alone. So it's yes, that's part of it, but I think that conversations and friendships and all that, um, it is really hard to find someone genuinely interested in you, like interested in what you have to think, what you have to say, when everything's about social media or something else, blah 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 blah, or something like that.
You said social media.
So,
Yeah. You know,
I wasn't into that
that's
when I was in middle school, high school.
that's a whole nother can of worms, and I think we're gonna tap that real quick. Alani, even you, I want you to think back like to your high school, your middle school, high school self, right? So back in your middle school, high school days, how do you feel like your friendships transpired? And how like did communication work for you? Was it easy for you to communicate? Or did you find it sometimes to be very hard to communicate?
I think it was dependent on the people I was talking to, because some people listen, some people don't. Some people care, some people don't care.
Right.
Um, but yeah, it was dependent on the friendship. Yeah, I had a friendship that it was only about herself. Um, Nothing about myself. It was her. It was her. But I was very nice. I was there for her. I never told her like, you always talk about yourself. No, I was there for her. Um, yeah, it gets tiring because you can't talk about yourself and tell her your problems. But I was a nice friend. I was a nice friend and I was there for her. But for her, I didn't open up. I didn't talk about myself. So it was kind of hard for me. But my other friends, yeah, I used to open with them and they used to help me. So
So you kind of shut down with that friend because it was like you're not gonna listen anyway. So
yeah, yeah. But I was there for her even though.
right. And I even think that that too can sometimes be very common in some relationships where you find that you are the person, you are the sounding block for some people sometimes. And it's kind of like what we mentioned last week, there are people who are there for a season. And sometimes we end up finding out via communication that those people are just seasonal because they really don't care for your well-being. Like you find out through their words or their actions. How do you guys feel like communication skills can help prevent friendships from becoming toxic? I know that's a tough one too.
I think talking.
I love it. She's like, just talking, like just have the conversation, right? I think, active listening is so important. And when I say active listening, like a lot of people just feel like sometimes active listening is just, oh, well, I heard what you said, right? But it's more than just hearing what someone says. It's really understanding and paying attention to the whole body, right? Understanding their nonverbal cues, understanding that body language, or sometimes when they're avoiding, because some conversations are so uncomfortable that people will avoid. They avoid eye contact. They avoid like really listening. So like they're multitasking, so they don't really have to listen to what you're saying. They find ways to avoid the situation. But active listening for us is typically when you are like really paying attention to that person's body language, their verbal cues, their nonverbal cues, acknowledging what they're saying, and even repeating back just to make sure you have a clear understanding, because sometimes what some people mean, they may verbalize it in a different way. So it leaves it up for question and even perspective, different perspectives. Do you feel like sometimes you jump to a conclusion before your friends are ever even done giving you a situation, telling you about their situation? I love that facial expression, Caesar.
Nah, I mean, I'm an overthinker, I think, because I be thinking, but that's just me, I think, because I be, you know how I think of like every situation that can happen and try to calculate what's the best one and what's not. But yeah, there's sometimes that I do jump into conclusions, and it's not healthy, but I'm working on it.
Mm. I love that. I love that reflection. That's that self-reflection. What about for you, Alani? Do you feel like sometimes you jump to conclusions when your friends are saying things? Like, so before they even finish everything that they got to say, do you feel like you jump to a conclusion?
Yeah, I already know what they say. I already have it on my mind what I'm about to say.
So like you got your answer prepared, like it's there. And I asked that question because I'm like, this is where a lot of times we end up with the wrong perspective. We didn't allow them to finish saying what they were saying, and we already had the conclusion. We already got our question lined up. And then we ask it, and it ain't even nowhere near what they was trying to finish out with.
I try to let them finish, but most of the time they finish and I'm like, oh, okay. Because like if it's a situation, right? I'm like, okay, I'm gonna just let. All right, so I'm gonna just hear the story and I'm gonna figure it out, and I'm gonna like figure out my questions, and I'm gonna ask the questions, and they gonna give me answers, right? So I hear them out fully before asking anything and jump into that conclusion because but sometimes sometimes I'd be throwing with them like,
Oh, geez.
yeah, I just be messing with them.
So when we think about, right, let's go back to the boundaries piece, because I know we kind of tapped into the boundaries, right? Do you guys feel like when you are telling people your boundaries that you are being assertive in what you say?
What is assertive again after that?
Ooh, assertive. Assertive means that you are being very strong in what you're meaning. So like you're saying it and you're saying it with confidence, and it's not a question. It is more like, this is it. This is what I need, and this is what I need from you. Do you feel like your boundaries typically come off as assertive, or do you feel like your boundaries come off aggressive?
Assertive.
Assertive.
I try to be as non-aggressive as possible. See,
Y'all not choosing violence, huh? Look.
I try.
That's the main question.
Oh, you say you try, Lonnie?
Yeah, because
Right.
sometimes you be worried. And I'm like, oh wait.
Are you aware if it sounds aggressive sometimes?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, because I could tell you, they'll tell you. I was like, oh, okay.
I mean, yeah, sometimes they will tell you.
Yeah. Oh,
What about you, Caesar? Are you aware if yours comes out assertive or aggressive?
I'm assuming. Me now. There you go. Then. I think it would be aggressive because I have heard that before, but I try not to. I try to take a deep breath and because it depends on the situation. I think because sometimes you have them there, like you have the person in front of you, and you're trying to set those boundaries, and they're serious. I'm serious, but sometimes they're not serious, and we all playing around, but we still trying to make that point across. Or sometimes I might be mad, or he might be mad at something that I have said, or something like that, and the expressing your boundaries turns to like a argument almost, like. So I think I guess I want to say submissive, but is it probably aggressive?
And I love it, and I know it typically it depends on the person, right? It depends on and how they perceive it, because it's all about perception, how somebody views those actions. Like y'all did really good. So what is some advice that you would give to other people to continue to continue active listening, and be assertive in their boundaries?
Try to always be strong in your boundaries. Like keep your boundaries set, but if they seem like a little bit like too much, maybe you can try to make it so that it's not too much of that, and make it maybe a bit less.
Also reflecting on your boundaries. So if it's too much, just go back and reflect and try again.
Or like you can kind of like update the boundary, right?
Absolutely.
So you can kind of like match it with the situation, or not just the situation, but like the environment.
Oh, so reflect and assess. I love what you guys got. I love these thinking faces. Oh, I see. Be flexible with boundaries and have empathy. Yes, y'all.
I think
What?
for me, when I was in probably middle school, high school, I think it was almost not embarrassed, but like scared of what the outcome could be of what if if I try to talk to someone seriously and set my boundaries, how would they respond back? And like, oh, you're not cool anymore, man. You're not my friend. You're not do this, you're not that. It's but some advice I would say is like just take a deep breath, just think it over, what you want to do, what you want to say exactly, have that right moment to say it to, and yeah, just make it be heard, I guess.
That's a good point, Caesar. I love that.
But you said they're gonna be like, oh, I don't want to be your friend no more. Well, maybe ask them, okay, what made you pull away? Like tell
Mm.
me what's wrong with my boundaries.
Yeah,
So,
that's smart too. See, oh my god.
see,
Look at y'all. I see y'all on the same page here.
Yeah, for
uh,
sure.
come on.
Asking them questions. Yeah. And I think that's so important is us asking questions and then being ready for the answer because sometimes the answer is not what we think it is.
Hmm.
And sometimes it's not even what we want to hear, but being open to the answer that comes.
Is some it's constructive advice.
Okay, constructive advice.
Yeah, I'm searching for the word. I was like, I know it starts with the C. I
Constructive
forget.
advice. What you say, Alani?
I feel like, yeah, be calm, flexible, and be honest, and be respectful, and tell them like, be respectful with me, and I be respectful with you. Because I think a lot of people don't like that and don't agree with you, but I think that's your boundaries, and you need to respect them. So you need to be a little bit, I don't know.
I love that. I love it. Yes, look, y'all better come through with these words of wisdom. I'm loving it. Y'all did a phenomenal job. Look, great work, y'all. Great work. I know I asked y'all a ton of questions, and y'all probably like, ugh, another one. But look, that's it. I'm done. I'm done asking questions. See, y'all have survived another Talk Tuesday.
No.
So that being said, guys, I want to say thank you guys, all of you, for tuning in to another week's episode of Talk Tuesday. We really hope that today's discussion about effective communication resonated with you in some way. I want you guys to remember that the quality of your friendships can have a huge impact on your happiness and well-being. So I want you guys to choose your circle wisely and always strive for connections that build you up and not tear you down. So before we go, I just want to let you guys know we do have some upcoming things that you can be a part of. Yes, we're having our virtual survival program this week. Oh, and I love before I even finish that, I see a comment that says no one is perfect, so we always need to be open with each other and learn from each other. Oh, come on, words of wisdom. Look, I love this. All of you guys have words of wisdom, and it's so awesome to see. Come on, students. Um, I want you guys to also know that on the fourth Saturday of the month, we have Family Walk in the Park. So we invite all of you to come out and walk with us and have family conversations. So yes, we have a topic that we use when we walk, and it is family friendly. Sometimes it's tough conversations. What was our topic last month? Do you remember?
No, I'm not doing that. I forgot.
We left with an action plan though. What was the action plan?
Oh, yeah. It was how do we check up on how to be like a better communicator and how to communicate not just with our friends effectively, but how to be a better communicator in general to the people
Right.
closest to us. And I think our action plan was to check up on a few friends
that you haven't talked to in a
In a
while. Because
I did that immediately.
look at that, look at that.
I did it the same day.
Then I got 2 friends I need to check up on. See? So look, it leaves us with things to do, right? Even after the walk. So we invite you guys to come out and walk with us, have a great conversation, and leave with a plan of action afterwards. And so we're excited about that for this month as well. So that being said, guys, I want you to remember that you are stronger than you think and more capable than you realize. So keep growing, keep learning, and most importantly, keep choosing positive connections. Until next time, you guys, we hope that you have a great evening, and we will see you next week for another episode of Talk Tuesday.
Bye.
Hey.